Imagine this, you're with him, the conversation is flowing, there's an unspoken connection in the air, and then it happens. He leans in for a hug. In that brief moment, something powerful takes place. It's not just a simple embrace, it's an opportunity. Most people see a hug as nothing more than a routine gesture, something casual, even forgettable. But what if I told you that a hug has the potential to be so much more? What if, with just a few subtle changes in how you respond, you could turn an ordinary hug into an unforgettable experience, one that lingers in his mind long after you've walked away? The truth is, hugs are deeply psychological. They trigger emotions, memories, and even desires on a subconscious level. And depending on how you respond, a hug can either be something he barely remembers or something he can't stop thinking about. Think about it. Have you ever hugged someone and felt different afterward? Maybe your heart raced a little, maybe you felt a spark, maybe that one hug left you wondering about them in a way you never expected. That's because a hug isn't just physical, it's emotional. And here's where it gets even more interesting. A woman who knows how to hug with presence, with the right energy, and with just the right amount of subtle touch, can create an experience that a man will want to relive over and over again. It's not about making it obvious. It's about being effortless, natural, and just mysterious enough to make him feel something he can't quite explain. In today's video on Stoic Stream, I'm going to show you exactly how to respond to a hug in a way that makes him feel an instant, undeniable connection. By the end of this video, you'll know how to time the release of a hug to create tension and desire. The one subtle touch that makes a hug feel more intimate. A secret non-verbal trick that leaves him craving another hug, and why a simple hug can sometimes be more powerful than words. So, if you've ever wondered how to leave a lasting impression without saying a word, then keep watching, because this small change in how you respond to a hug could change everything. Let's get into it. Step number 1. The slight pause before letting go. Hugs are such a natural part of human interaction that most people don't even think twice about them. They happen automatically, quick, casual, and often forgettable. But what if I told you that the way you time a hug, specifically how long you hold on to it before letting go, can make all the difference in whether or not he keeps thinking about you afterward? Most people hug with no real thought or intention. They step in, embrace for a second or two, then immediately break away as if following an invisible script. But if you want to make an impact, if you want him to feel something real and lasting, you need to break that pattern. You need to make him notice the moment. And the simplest, most effective way to do that, the slight pause before letting go. Here's why it works. When someone hugs you, their brain expects the usual rhythm. Embrace, quick squeeze, immediate release. It's predictable, it's automatic, and it doesn't leave much room for emotion. But if you subtly disrupt that pattern by holding the hug just a second or two longer than expected, his brain instantly registers that something is different. That extra second creates a shift. A moment of heightened awareness, a pause in time that forces him to feel the closeness, the warmth, the connection. He might not even be fully conscious of it, but deep inside, something will change. Suddenly the hug isn't just a hug anymore. It's a moment that lingers. Here's exactly how to do it. When you hug him, don't rush the embrace. Instead, lean into it fully. Be present in the moment. Feel the warmth, feel his presence, and allow yourself to relax just enough that he notices. As the hug is about to end, pause for just a second longer than expected. Not too long, just long enough to create a slight feeling of anticipation. When you release, do it slowly. Don't immediately step back or break all physical contact at once. Instead, let your arms slide away gently. That momentary hesitation does something powerful. It makes him aware of your presence in a deeper way. Instead of a quick, forgettable hug, he actually feels you there for a second longer. It creates an emotional pause. That pause forces him to notice the closeness, to register the warmth, and to wonder, even if only briefly, if that hug meant something more. It triggers curiosity and attraction. When a man experiences a moment that disrupts the ordinary, his brain starts replaying it. He begins to wonder, was that hug different? Did she feel something too? That slight uncertainty keeps him thinking about you. But here's where things get even more interesting. If you combine the slight pause before letting go with a subtle extra detail, like a gentle squeeze on his back, a light touch on his arm, or even just a deep, relaxed breath near him, you elevate the hug from memorable to magnetic. The goal is to make him feel something without being obvious about it. It's not about clinging too long or making the moment awkward. It's about being intentional, being present, and letting him feel the warmth of the connection just a little longer than he expected. That small shift changes everything. Because when a moment feels different, when it lingers in his mind just enough to stand out, he won't be able to forget it. And when a man starts to think about a moment over and over again, he starts to think about the person who created that moment. Step number 2. The light back touch. A small move with a huge impact. Most people underestimate the power of subtle physical touch. A hug alone is powerful, but when you add an extra layer of intention, a small, seemingly innocent gesture, you create an effect that lingers in his mind far longer than the hug itself. And one of the most powerful yet effortless ways to do this. The light back touch. This is a detail that can completely change the energy of the hug. It's subtle enough that he won't consciously analyze it, but strong enough that his brain will register something different, deeper, and more personal. Think about the way most people hug. It's straightforward, arms around each other, brief moment of closeness, and then they pull away. But a woman who knows how to use touch strategically can turn that hug into something unforgettable. Here's how it works. When you wrap your arms around him, let your fingertips gently glide across his back, but just for a second. This isn't a firm grab or an obvious stroke. It's light, almost like a whisper against his skin, something so subtle that it barely registers, but he'll feel it, and that's the key. A man's back is one of the most underappreciated yet sensitive areas for non-verbal attraction. The gentle movement of your fingers or a soft, slow touch triggers an unconscious reaction. It signals warmth, comfort, and, most importantly, a level of personal connection that feels deeper than a typical hug. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The way you touch him will determine how he perceives it. There are different variations of the light back touch, each with its own unique effect. The slow glide. As you hug, let your fingertips lightly trail down his back for just a second before letting go. This adds a sense of warmth and familiarity, as if you're naturally connected in that moment. The gentle hold. Instead of just placing your hand on his back, let it rest there, with a slight, steady pressure. This gives the feeling of security and presence, making the hug feel stronger and more intentional. The fingertip brush. This is the most subtle yet intriguing option. As you pull away, let your fingers briefly linger as if you're reluctant to break contact completely. This creates a soft, teasing sense of intimacy, one that he won't be able to stop thinking about. But the magic of this move isn't just about the physical touch itself, it's about how it makes him feel. Why is this so powerful? It creates an unexpected sensation. Most hugs are surface level, but a light touch on the back activates a deeper emotional response that he won't even realize is happening. It builds subconscious attraction. When you introduce an element of soft, intentional touch, his mind starts associating your presence with warmth, comfort, and connection. It makes him wonder if it meant something more. That's the key. Uncertainty creates desire. If he starts replaying that hug in his mind, asking himself whether that touch was intentional or just natural, you've already won. And the best part? It's effortless. Unlike other ways of getting a man's attention, this technique doesn't require any bold moves or obvious flirting. It's just a small, natural, barely noticeable touch, but it will have him thinking about you long after the hug is over. Step number 3. The soft exhale near his neck, the subtle trigger that ignites attraction. Some moments are powerful not because of what you say, but because of what you make the other person feel. And when it comes to a hug, one of the most underrated yet. Deeply affecting things you can do is control your breath. It sounds simple, right? But a soft, slow exhale near his neck during a hug creates a moment of intimacy so subtle, so natural, that he won't even fully understand why it's making him feel the way it does. He just knows that something about it feels different. Most people don't think about their breathing at all when they hug. They just embrace, maybe take a quick breath in or out, and move on. But when you become intentional about your breath, you unlock an entirely new level of connection. Why does this work? The area near the neck is one of the most sensitive spots on the human body. It's a place where breath, warmth, and presence can create a powerful psychological effect. When someone breathes near our neck, even in the most innocent way, our body reacts. The sensation is warm, intimate, and slightly teasing. And because it happens so naturally within a hug, it doesn't come across as forced or overly seductive. It just feels different. Think about it. Have you ever had someone hold you close and you suddenly became aware of their breath? Maybe it wasn't even intentional, but for a second it made you feel something. That's because our bodies are wired to react to warmth, breath, and closeness. And when you exhale softly near his neck, he will feel that warmth in a way that lingers. How to do it perfectly. As you lean into the hug, relax your body. When you relax, your breathing naturally slows down, which is key to making this work. Take a slow breath in, then gently exhale as the hug lingers. The key is to keep it subtle. You're not sighing dramatically, you're just releasing a soft, natural breath near him. Positioning is everything. You don't need to have your lips right against his neck. Just being close enough that he can feel the warmth of your breath is enough. The exhale should be slow and warm, not forced. It's not about trying to make him notice. It's about letting it happen in a way that feels effortless and natural. What happens in his mind? The moment your breath subtly touches his skin, his brain registers it on a primal level. It catches him off guard, in the best way. Since most hugs feel generic and emotionless, this unexpected sensation grabs his attention. It creates an unspoken moment of intimacy. Even if the hug is friendly, the warmth of your breath makes it feel more personal, more real, more connected. It leaves him craving more. The mind loves subtle, mysterious triggers. When something small yet powerful happens, his brain starts replaying the moment, wondering why it stood out. And that's where attraction builds, not in the big, obvious moments, but in the quiet, unspoken sensations that make a man feel something he can't explain. The key to making this unforgettable. This technique works best when paired with the previous steps. The slight pause before letting go builds tension, the light back touch adds warmth, and the soft exhale creates an emotional trigger that lingers in his mind. By the time you step away, he won't know exactly what just happened. All he knows is that the hug felt different, better, unforgettable. Step number 4. The eye contact after the hug, the moment that seals the connection. A hug is powerful, but what happens after the hug? That's where the real magic happens. Most people hug and immediately look away, shift their attention, or break the moment completely. But if you want to leave a lasting impression, one that keeps him thinking about you long after you've walked away, What you do in those few seconds after the hug is just as important as the hug itself. And the most powerful, unspoken way to deepen the connection is through eye contact. Why eye contact? After a hug is so powerful, eye contact isn't just about looking at someone. It's about creating a moment of recognition, a silent exchange of energy. It's what transforms a hug from being just a friendly gesture into something more personal, intimate, and unforgettable. The moment you pull away from the hug, if you take even a second to hold his gaze, you're sending a subconscious message. That hug meant something. I feel connected to you. There's something here. And whether he realizes it or not, his brain will register that look, because eye contact is one of the most intense primal forms of human connection. Science has shown that prolonged eye contact releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, the same one that deepens attraction and emotional connection. It creates a sense of familiarity, warmth, and intrigue. And when it happens after a hug, it amplifies everything he just felt. How to make this work effortlessly? The key to using eye contact without making it feel forced is all in the timing and delivery. As you pull away from the hug, don't immediately break eye contact. Let your eyes meet his for just a second longer than usual. Not long enough to feel intense, but just enough to make him notice. Pair it with a small, subtle smile. This softens the moment, making it feel natural and warm rather than calculated. A slight, knowing smile adds an air of mystery, making him wonder what you're thinking. If you want to take it up a notch, add a light touch before letting go. A soft brush of your fingers on his arm as you pull away, combined with that fleeting eye contact, will create a moment so undeniably charged that he won't be able to stop thinking about it. Let the moment linger, but don't hold it too long. The beauty of this technique is in its subtlety. If the eye contact lasts too long, it might feel unnatural. If it's too short, it loses impact. Aim for about 2 to 3 seconds, just enough for him to feel it. What happens in his mind? The moment your eyes meet after the hug, a few things happen inside his mind. It creates a moment of unexpected intensity. He was probably expecting a normal, forgettable hug. But the eye contact adds a layer of depth that makes it stand out. It makes him wonder what you're thinking. If a man is left wondering about a moment, he starts replaying it in his mind. That's when attraction builds. It lingers in his memory. While the hug may have ended, the feeling of that eye contact will stay with him. And that's what makes it unforgettable. Why this works so well? Most people don't take advantage of this small but powerful moment. They hug, pull away, and move on. But when you hold eye contact, you're sending a subtle but undeniable message. This moment was different. I see you, I feel you, and now you're going to remember this hug. It's not about saying anything. It's not about making a grand gesture. It's about making him feel something without a single word. Bonus tip: the one last touch, leaving a lasting impression with minimal effort. If you really want to make a man think about you long after the hug is over, there's one final move that seals the moment in his mind: the one last touch. Most people hug and immediately step back, breaking all contact as if the moment never happened. But when you add one small, deliberate touch after the hug, you create a lingering effect that keeps you on his mind, making him crave more of your presence without even realizing why. Why this works so powerfully: human touch is one of the strongest triggers of emotional memory. A simple, well-placed touch activates deep psychological responses, making someone associate you with warmth, closeness, and attraction, whether they realize it or not. But what makes the one last touch so special is that it happens after the hug, catching him off guard in the best way. By breaking the expected pattern, you create a unique moment that his brain registers as different and meaningful. This small, unexpected touch leaves a subtle emotional imprint, making him feel like the hug is still lingering even after it's physically over. How to execute it perfectly. There are a few ways to do this, and each sends a slightly different message. The key is to keep it effortless and natural. It should never feel forced or overly intentional. 1. The light arm brush. As you step back from the hug, let your fingertips lightly graze his arm or forearm for just a second before completely pulling away. It's soft, quick, and feels completely natural, but it leaves a subconscious reminder of your touch. Best for a casual, playful vibe that leaves him wanting more. 2. The gentle hand squeeze. If you're already holding onto his arm or hand when you step away, add a slight squeeze before letting go. It's a small yet deeply personal gesture that feels intimate without being overwhelming. Best for a slightly flirtatious but emotionally warm connection. 3. The subtle lower back tap. If the hug had an element of closeness as you pull away, place a light hand on his lower back for just a second, almost like an afterthought. This type of touch is incredibly personal and attention-grabbing, as the lower back is an area that naturally sparks attraction. Best for a deeper, more intimate connection that keeps him thinking. The playful chest pat for a more fun, teasing effect. If the hug is a little more casual, you can add a soft pat or gentle press against his chest as you step away, almost as if you're saying, "That was nice, wasn't it?" It's playful, slightly teasing, and adds a unique touch he won't forget. Best for a light-hearted, flirty vibe that makes him smile. What happens in his mind? The moment your hand lingers for just a second longer than expected, his brain takes note. It makes the hug feel special. Most hugs follow a standard script, but this unexpected extra touch breaks the pattern, making him feel like this moment meant something more. It creates a craving for more. Because the touch is brief and subtle, it leaves a sense of unfinished energy, making him unconsciously wish for another interaction with you. It keeps you in his thoughts. Later, when he thinks back to the hug, he won't just remember the hug itself, he'll remember the way you touched him after. And that's what lingers. The key to making this work effortlessly. Don't overthink it. The more effortless it looks, the more powerful it feels. If you do it with confidence, it will feel completely natural. Time it just right. Too soon, and he might not even notice it. Too late, and it might feel forced. The sweet spot, just as you're stepping away. Pair it with eye contact. If you combine this with step number 4, the eye contact after the hug, the effect is even stronger. It will feel like an unspoken moment of connection. Why this one last touch is the ultimate game changer. A hug is already a powerful way to connect, but what happens after the hug is what truly makes the difference. By adding just one last touch, you turn an ordinary moment into something memorable, intriguing and emotionally charged. And if he feels something different, something subtle yet undeniably real, he won't be able to ignore it. He'll think about it later. He'll wonder if you meant it. Final takeaway: hugging with intention, turning a simple embrace into an unforgettable connection. Hugs happen every day. Friends hug, family members hug, even strangers might exchange a polite embrace. But the difference between a forgettable hug and a hug that lingers in someone's mind long after it's over comes down to one thing: intention. Most people treat hugs as nothing more than a routine gesture, quick, thoughtless, and over in a second. But when you approach a hug with awareness and purpose, you transform it from a simple moment of contact into something that stays with the other person. The truth is, a well-executed hug is one of the most powerful, unspoken forms of connection. It doesn't require words, it doesn't require effort, it simply requires presence. Because when you hug with intention, when you combine the slight pause before letting go, the light back touch, the soft exhale near his neck, the eye contact after the hug, and the one last touch, you create a moment that is deeply felt rather than just physically experienced. Why hugging with intention works so powerfully? A hug is one of the rare moments in life when two people enter each other's personal space without barriers. It's an exchange of warmth, energy, and connection, if you allow it to be. The problem? Most people rush through it, missing the opportunity to make it meaningful. They see it as just a routine action, something that happens automatically. But when you slow down and treat the hug as a deliberate, conscious moment, something changes. It becomes an experience rather than a habit. And that experience creates a memory, one that the other person can't easily forget. The secret to a hug that leaves a lasting impression. A hug isn't about how long you hold on. It's not about squeezing too tightly or making it obvious that you're trying to create a moment. It's about the small, subtle details that make him feel something different. The pause before letting go, which builds anticipation. The light touch on his back, which adds a layer of comfort and connection. The soft exhale near his neck, which triggers an intimate, subconscious reaction. The eye contact after the hug, which deepens the emotional impact. The one last touch, which keeps the moment lingering in his mind. When these elements are combined, the hug feels effortless but unforgettable. What happens in his mind? After an intentional hug, he might not even fully understand why, but something about the moment sticks with him. He replays it in his mind, wondering why it felt different from other hugs he's had. Maybe it's the way you lingered for just a second longer. Maybe it's the way your touch felt natural but deeply personal. Maybe it's the way you held his gaze after the hug, making him feel seen. Whatever it is, the result is the same. He won't forget it. And that's the beauty of a hug that's given with intention. It's not about being obvious. It's about creating a feeling that he doesn't even realize he's craving. The final thought: make every hug count. From this moment on, don't let your hugs be forgettable. Whether it's with someone you're interested in, someone you love, or someone you simply want to connect with on a deeper level, hug with presence, hug with purpose, and hug with intention. Because when you do, you're not just giving a hug, you're creating a memory. And trust me, he'll feel it, and he'll remember it.